Milo, is that you?
There, I think I got it.
Is it the same link for this chat every time?
Sure.
Yeah. We can do that.
Yeah. Normally,
let me check my bookmark. Yeah.
It usually is. Yes. It's the joke.
So here's a little tip for you, Otto. You're here now.
Yes.
Bookmark. There we go.
Bookmark. It's the Joe Cummings studio.
Gotcha.
Until somehow I forget to lock it. Too many people find out about it, then it'll become something else.
Then it'll change to something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can lock the door on it, right?
Well, yeah, sure.
Yes,
But
sometimes he forgets and riffraff get in.
And riffraff start coming in, and Ralph Renzetti. No. Look at what I said. I'm sorry. I love you, Ralph. Okay, so Bruce.
Hello.
Kelly.
Yep.
Kelly.
I hear you.
Otto.
Yes.
Otto.
Yes.
So we're a minute and 17 in, and so far it's been riveting podcasting.
So we're kind of
I'm jumping
hitting our moderately adequate form.
We're jumping right in because Otto Vondrak is here, who is the editor of RMC, and he's been here so often. I don't feel like we need to introduce him as a special guest. I mean, he's one of the, he's kind of like... he's
kind of like the friends of the AML.
Well, he's kind of like Rickles was on Carson,
Oh, there you go. He just drop in anytime he wants.
Yeah, he's always there.
Hey, hockey puck, how you doing?
Well, so at some point, Otto, you and I were discussing the Dremel Kitbashing Award, or you said something to the effect of you wish you could get more entrants into the Dremel Kitbashing Award.
Yeah, we've been struggling, and I don't know if it's because people don't know about the contest or they've taken it for granted or they don't think that they're worthy, but we are looking for more people to enter our monthly RMC Dremel Kitbashing Award.
So RMC stands for Railroad Model Craftsman.
That's correct.
Of which you are the editor.
Yes.
For we're getting into multiple years now. Like we're closing in on 3.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so I don't remember when you and I were talking, and then I said, well, why don't you come on the podcast and we'll talk all about it. And then hopefully we can get some people encouraged to partake in the RMC Dremel Kitbashing Award.
But, yeah, I think that would be a great thing to do.
Okay.
And this has to be one of the longest running things that RMC's done, because I remember the first issue of RMC I bought was like August 74, and I believe it was in there. So this is something that's going on for many years.
I had to ask Tony Custer about the tradition and how far back it went, and he told me it went back to the early 1970s, and he knew the sales manager for Dremel, and they came up with the idea together.
Yeah, like I actually, Dave Abelese and I were interviewing Tony, which I don't believe has been released yet. And we took our trip through the 70s, he said he was in Chicago at some show, some convention, and the Dremel guy was there, and he just went up to him and said, hey, we need a sponsor for like a Kitbashing Award. And the guy was like all over it, like jumped on it, which of course makes perfect sense because really all they're giving away is one. And what do they get exactly?
You get a brand new Dremel Moto tool and a full set of bits to go with it. And, I think it's a great way to spark people's creativity. And, I think the scariest thing you can do is cut into a brand new model, right? But hopefully the idea of receiving a brand new Dremel will entice people to take that jump.
Well, yeah. And what exactly are there rules? Like, can they find rules for it somewhere, or is it just like have at it, or what is?
That was easy for you to say.
No, but like, are there like hard and fast rules? I guess is what I'm asking.
The model has to be at least 50% commercial parts. So, I mean, that's the idea of kit bashing. You are combining elements of different things to make a new model. So the model just has to be 50% commercial parts. It can be a train. It could be a structure. It can be any scale. And you just have to be able to write anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000 words. You'll probably want to include, a nice beauty shot of the finished model. If you have a couple of in-progress photos to show us some of the highlights of what you're doing. Again, this isn't a how-to feature. This is the way we have it structured. It's like a 4-page, highlight reel of what you did. And especially if you're following a prototype, it's always good to throw in a prototype photo so we know what you're trying to do and how you did it.
Well, and I would imagine that once you select the winner for a particular month, you're more than willing to work with the person to help them cobble together a proper article. Like,
sure, yeah, absolutely. And what I need is send me photos of a model in progress, or show me the finished model, and say, hey, this is my entry for the Dremel Award, and I'll say, great, let's turn this into a story.
And have either of you, Kelly, have you ever entered the RMC Dremel Kitbashing Award?
No, I've never done it, but you know what? I've got a building that I built from scratch that it's on the club layout. I might submit a photo.
But it's built from scratch.
Yeah.
Well, no, it has to be 50% kit parts and
No.
50%. Yeah.
Does it?
Yeah, he just said that.
Were you listening?
No, I wasn't listening.
Did you
don't
nod
know.
off again, Kelly?
And also, if you can't remember the couple of requirements I just gave you, if you look in any past issue from the last couple of years, we have the rules on how to enter right there with the award.
So is that at least 50%? So if I used all Campbell scale models wood, that's 100%, right?
Well, you can't. That's like strip wood.
Well, hey, it's commercial. We sell it.
See, now that's why we're having this particular podcast. That's why I gathered together some of the finest minds in the country when it comes to model railroading.
At least 3 of them.
Oh man, let me know when they get here.
And then they all had to leave before we started. So now I got Kelly.
Unfortunately, yeah. See, I'm just thinking, and the Godfather of kit bashing, Art Kern, be rolling in his grave right now listening to Kelly.
Yeah,
he wrote for a competing publication, but he did a lot to promote it.
Like Art Curran is my hero, and I can't tell you how many. Like when I was a kid, reading his articles whenever they popped up in Model Railroader, those were absolutely my favorites.
They were great articles, yep.
And they were great inspiration. In fact, Art's Lumber Company was one of my favorites. That I think came out in December '87. It was sometime around there, and I loved how simple it was because it was an Atlas lumberyard, the lumber shed, and he modified the structure to make it 3 stories tall. And I don't remember what he used for an office, but he used like some like residential home, and he modified it, made it an office. And I always thought it was a neat model, and I've actually seen the real Arts Lumber on the MR&T in Waukesha, and that was cool. A couple years ago, I was in a Facebook group called Modelers Guild, and this fellow shared his kit bash of a lumberyard that was inspired by Arts Lumber, and instead of making the lumber shed 3 stories tall, he made the lumber shed 2 sheds wide. He made it a longer shed, so it really looked like it needed rail service. It's if you think about most model railroad buildings, they are way too small to realistically demand rail service. So he made it longer. He cut out one of the bays in the middle for a truck pass through, and he used the Lifelike Country Store as an office building. And the way he kit bashed it, and the way he painted it all one uniform color, it looks like a building built all at the same time. And I liked his idea so much, I borrowed it when we did the Consider the Commuter Project Railroad series in RMC a couple years ago, and I built a model based off that for our modules for the magazine article. So I liked how we were both inspired by Arts Lumber from the 80s. This guy put a new spin on it, and instead of building up, he built across. And then I built off of his idea and used it in the magazine. So, and I think that's where, this inspiration for kit bashing comes from. Even if you see a model and you're not going to build that model, there's still ideas, techniques, materials, whatever it is that you can take away, and it might inspire you to build something of your own.
So Kelly, are you ready? You have to take a couple of kits, or you have to take a kit and some scratch building materials and make a structure out of it, or a freight car, or a locomotive, or I guess that's pretty much it, right? Locomotive, freight car, or structure. Is that pretty much it, Otto? Those three categories?
Yeah, you can start with a, locomotive shell and modify it, put additional commercial parts on it, whatever that is, freight cars, passenger cars, however you're working that, whatever you're doing to modify the car. I had a fellow send me a project. He's like, I cut the door open on this passenger car. And I'm like, well, we need to go a little farther. You did modify the original car, but it's not exactly kit bashing. You cut an opening in the vestibule. That's not the, I mean, you're on the right track. Right. You're definitely on the way to kit bashing a model, but that's more of a modification. And if you're not sure, send me a picture of your model and say, hey, does this qualify? Tell me how you built it, and I'll tell you right away if it does or it doesn't. And even if it doesn't qualify for the award, hey, it might qualify for something else in the magazine.
That's right, because Otto's always on the prowl looking for good material to put in the magazine.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, and it could be, I'll help you turn into an article, or maybe it's a model you've already built and you don't have any in-progress photos. There's always our occasional Boomer Trail photo gallery of finished models. So again, don't be afraid to send me models for me. First of all, I love seeing models to look at. So, send me what you have, and if you're not sure if it qualifies or not, I'll let you know right away.
Yeah, and I guess you can say, there are a multitude of plastic and wood kits out there that are fine fodder for kit bashing. So, think about it, take a look, see what you can do, and have some fun. Now, I'll ask a question. Walthers and Design Preservation make their modular sections. Would that qualify as a kit bash if you built something based on those?
I think it would have to be additional components, because again, I think that'd be like, if you get some strip lumber and some window castings and you make a structure, you've just scratch built a structure. You didn't modify a kit. You didn't modify an existing. If you take DPM modulars or Walthers modulars and that's a subsection of something else that you're building, that's kit bashing. Or if you're substantially modifying them.
Yeah. So take something like that and bash it into an addition on a Walthers milling company or something like that.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Or if you took, like, say, two of City Classics company houses and made 1.5 houses out of it, like, a house with an L shape, or a house with a, like if you took one of the City Classics company houses and added another kit to it, or then you could scratch build, Kelly. Then you take a City Classics company house. So they're provided by our buddy Jim Sacco of City Classics. He pays me $1 every time I say his. Then take some of your Campbell's wood stuff and boom, get back that together.
Yeah.
Actually, there's a great Mike Hawk. I think I'm looking at a picture where he took two. That would actually be a great kit to be entered into your kit bashing. It's on his Susquehanna and New York Railroad. And it's a beautiful. It looks like he's taken two of the City Classics houses and made them into a kind of like a store/living quarters. That's pretty cool.
That's City Classics in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Cityclassics.biz. Get some today.
Operators are standing by.
Exactly. The official at Springfield. It's the official table. We're trying to get an extra table this year for Springfield.
I think there should be a City Classics pavilion at Springfield.
Well, there you go.
Wow, I'm liking that. Now we're getting somewhere. So have you had to miss months? Like, have you had months where you haven't had any entries?
Several, actually. And it's not for want of space. It's literally, the article's not there. I'm out of entries, or the entries that are remaining are just not qualifiers, and they've been repurposed for other sections of the magazine. And I know people are out there building models. And again, maybe it's because it's not there every month, or maybe people take it for granted, or maybe we haven't done a very good job of showing people how to enter. When in doubt, you can always reach me through our website, which is rrmodelcraftsman.com. And you can click the contact us button and you can get in touch with me that way. You can also email me, Otto, which is OTTO, at rrmodelcraftsman.com. You can reach us through our Facebook page if you search Railroad Model Craftsman Magazine. You can also stand on a soapbox in the good old, Fans of a Modeler's Life Facebook group and try to wave me down that way too. Sometimes I'll catch you there. So
yeah, that's a good point.
You never know where I'll turn up. I'm like a bad penny.
It always comes back.
It always comes back. I always just tell people, you can't get rid of me. I'm like mold. You scrub and you scrub, but I always come back.
I have a great idea, and I'm looking. There's 3 of you, so you guys can. I won't vote. Kelly, are you still part of the Medford Railroad Park?
Yep.
Okay. No, you're not. But you're not the president of the club anymore. The HO.
No,
club.
not the HO club. No, I'm glad.
You're glad.
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
I get to focus on other things.
Okay, beautiful layout they got there.
Yeah.
You should put that in RMC. You should get somebody to take some photos and put it in RMC.
I can send. I've taken a lot of photos.
Your photos are the worst photos on the planet.
Well, I'll tell you what. I will send Otto some of my photos, and he could be the judge.
All right, you take.
And then I'll tell you they're the worst on the planet.
Yeah, exactly.
A second opinion always helps, right?
I know what I was gonna. So, anyways, all right. So, but you are gonna be the chairman of the board of the board of governors start next year, right?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Can you do New York, New York?
No, I didn't pay the royalties yet.
Start spreading the news. I'm leaving today. I want to be a part of it in New York, New York. This vagabond.
If you listen to this show, Otto, long enough, you'll understand why I said that.
Oh, I appreciate that.
So, anyways, could somebody? Because I bet you there's a lot of people out there going, well, I don't have the photography equipment. And I'm thinking nowadays for the shots of in-progress construction shots, if they have a fairly new iPhone, or not iPhone, but smartphone with a good camera in it, are those photos suitable for, what do you call it, printing?
Absolutely. If you use your smartphone to take pictures, and as long as you're on the highest setting and you don't send me, compressed or reduced images, they are absolutely usable for print. In fact, I'll tell you a secret. A lot of times, if you see one of my photos in the magazine, it came out of my cell phone.
Really, eh? So it's gotten to that point where they're that good, where frequently you can use that kind of photography.
Well, I'll tell you, there were some. I shot a lot of photos when I built the modules for Consider the Commuter, and they weren't the best photos because they didn't have all the depth of field. When you're taking pictures of models with a cell phone and you're not doing anything else, you're really shooting in macro mode, so there's not a lot of depth of field.
Right.
But the way I was photographing the scenes, and I was photographing them outdoors, I made sure that the majority of the scene was parallel to the plane of the camera. So the things that weren't in focus, like the distant hillsides and distant buildings, they looked fuzzy, but that's okay because they're distant. They're supposed to be fuzzy. So again, maybe it doesn't always work for layout photography or scene photography, but if you are building a model and, if you got one hand on the soldering iron and you can reach with the other hand for your camera, as long as the key is to have really good lighting, and you should have good lighting if you're building models. So just make sure you have some good bright lighting. And you don't have to take a photograph of every single step of the model, but I think it's a really good idea to include the highlights, and just give us a sense of how the model progressed from start to finish.
Would this be a fair statement? Because people are using their smartphones, so it's pretty easy to take photos. If they send you 10 in-progress photos, that's okay and they not sure. Because a lot of the people that we'd be talking to or trying to encourage are people that have not necessarily ever sent something for publication. So I know a lot of people are concerned that their work isn't going to be good enough, and that might be, and so I mean, if they took 10 in progress photos, you're happy to get 10 photos. You might only use 2 of them, but the more photos they send you, the easier it is for you to construct the article. That's
right. Yeah, I think it's more important to have. I may want to have some variety to choose from when we're laying out the story. And it's always good to take a couple of shots every time you stop to do an in progress photo, because you might not notice, maybe you're shaking the camera while you're taking the picture, and the first shot you took is fuzzy, but the second shot is good. And again, it's digital, so take as many shots as you need till you think you got it right.
Yeah, I'll just say something about that. Nowadays, you can get a lot of little desktop camera mounts, or those flexible camera mount things. You can set up a shot so you're not touching it. And most cameras have a voice activation feature on it. My wife uses it all the time, and she's walking around saying "smile" all the time, and her camera's clicking off. But you can get voice activated. You can set yourself up at a tripod so you're not touching it, and say "smile" or whatever the keyword is, and your camera will take the picture. That will get rid of your shaky hand.
I know I've asked this question before, Otto, and I apologize basically, I apologize in advance for any parts of the podcast.
I understand.
Yeah. What are you laughing at? You're one of the parts that I apologize for.
I know.
Have you ever written an article about how to take photos with a smartphone?
We've published a few in the last couple of years. One of our quarterly columns is called Company Photographer, where we talk about photography equipment and techniques. And I don't have the issues handy when we have published those, but if you look back in your back issues, I'm sure you'll find a few stories where we talk about taking pictures with cell phones, taking pictures with small point and shoot cameras, and even taking pictures with big fancy DSLRs. Cameras are just another tool to learn to use, not unlike a Dremel. The Dremel moto tool, you should get one.
Yeah.
But no,
there's only some way a guy can make a model and enter it in a contest.
Yeah,
there's a way. Well, and that's something else I want to talk about too, is that, we've talked about what constitutes a kitbashed model, how to take pictures of it, how to get it to me. And I've talked about this in some of my editorials in the last few months. Nothing is scarier than taking a stock model out of the box and cutting it up.
That's for sure.
I remember the first time, and I wrote about this a few months ago, first kitbashed model I attempted. I was at some tag sale. I found a copy of Railroad Model Craftsman from the 70s, and it had a neat article about taking the Tyco streamlined caboose, making 2 cuts in the roof so that you can flip the cupola around 180 degrees, and you would have a centered cupola instead of the offset cupola, and it would be a very close model of a Pennsylvania Railroad N8 style caboose. And I'm like, well, this seems easy enough. I'm like 10. I think I can handle making 2 cuts in the roof and 2 cuts on the side and flipping this cupola around. I can do this. So that was the best part about that article, was that it sparked in me, wow, I could totally do that, and I'm going to try it. And I had a couple of Tyco, cabooses, because, they're only $1. Apologies to Tony, because I took them out of the box.
And cut them up.
Cut them up. I'm really sorry, Tony. I'm really sorry.
You're going to a special place for that, Otto.
The Tony he speaks of is Tony Cook, editor of Model Railroad News and managing editor of... is he trying to just take over the world through magazines? Diesel Era. He's the managing editor.
He's editor of Diesel Era, and he's also editor of our sister publication, HO Collector, which is a quarterly magazine about collecting vintage HO scale trains.
I know.
And of course, the topic of Tyco comes up, and Tyco actually had a lot of great models for starting kit bashing. Their Alco C430 was like one of the first mass-produced Alcos, and people were cutting those things up and detailing them and making them like award-winning models, and they were just Tyco, just quote Tyco. So yeah, like don't ever get discouraged based on what you're starting with. Don't let brand names scare you. If the model works for your project, use it. So back to 10-year-old me and my Tyco caboose. I was 10, and I didn't really have much of a hobby budget, and I didn't really have any tools. I've been reading about how to build models, and I understood the concepts, but I've never actually attempted building a model from start to finish like this. And the only knife I had that I was allowed to use was a serrated steak knife.
Oh, wow.
I took that serrated steak knife and I made 2 cuts in the roof, and then I made my cut along the roof line. And then I think at some point my dad took pity on me. He had one of those, maybe called a mat knife or utility knife, one of those, razor blade knives that retractable,
A box cutter.
A box cutter or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think I finished making the cuts that way. But because I started with the steak knife, I had some really huge, deep cuts, up there. But, I flipped around the cupola, and then we did have some squadron green putty. So I was able to fill in with squadron green putty and, made a mess with that. And of course I didn't have any hobby paints either. But my dad did furniture restoration, and he had a spray booth in his shop. And I told him, make the roof black and make the sides dark green like Penn Central. And, and he actually did pretty good matching the colors. Okay. Now I had a nice body that was black and green. I did not have decals. I didn't know where to buy decals, let alone how to put them on. So I used the computer at school to type out the words Penn Central and italicize them, and I cut them out and I put them on my model.
I don't want to embarrass you, Otto, in front of all your adoring fans because you're the editor of the RMC.
Yes.
But you could have found out a lot of this information just by Googling it on the internet. Even though it was before the internet. Can you imagine how much fun you would have had building that with the advent of the internet, if the internet had been available to you like it is now? Oh my God!
You bring up a great point, but it wasn't my lack of information, because I knew about decals and I read articles about how to apply them. But literally, me being 10 years old, and we didn't have a lot growing up, and I didn't ask for a lot of things when I was a kid, and it never occurred to 10-year-old me to be like, "Hey, Dad, I need decals for my caboose," but I don't think we even knew where you would order them from. We didn't really have any really good hobby shops around me, and or if we did, I wasn't going to them yet. But it was literally not knowing that step of where do I even buy hobby supplies? Where do I get X-Acto knives and razor saws? And where do I get sandpaper? And where do I get the right paints? Where do I get Penn Central green?
Well,
what is Penn Central green?
Can you imagine 10-year-old Otto with the advantage of the internet nowadays and all those questions you would have been able to answer, like boom, 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 boom. I'm telling you, this hobby is going to explode, and we're all going to be covered in model railroad goo. Now, speaking of kit bashing, I have a question. But first, I found this. Bruce and Kelly, is it Mike Hauk or Hawk? I can never remember.
Hauk.
It's Hauk.
I asked him one night. He was on the chat. It's Hauk.
Yeah.
It's Hauk. Okay. Well, can somebody please remind me of that on a semi-regular basis till I get
Lionel? It's Mike Hauk.
Hauk. Okay. Anyways, I Googled, as we just spoke of, kit bashing, and this came up. Look at this cool kit bash that Mike Hauk did. This is now, Kelly, this is exactly, we're looking at my computer screen now.
Yep.
And this is exactly what we're talking about. The structure was kit bash, starting with it's the Wheelerville General Store, Wheelerville, New York, and it's the General Store. And this structure was kit bash, starting with a City Classics Company house. A Tichy storefront was cut down and replaced. The lower front side of the company house. The addition is scratch built along with the porches and roofs. Chooch flexible stone material was a close match for the kit foundation, and that was used under the addition. Signs are a mix of homemade and commercial offerings. Man, Mike, you got to enter this in the RMC Dremel Kitbashing Award if you have got a couple of how-to photos.
Tony, no, what was I thinking? I just had to look this up because I'm like, this is a great model. And I'm like, we should get this in here. And I'm glad I looked it up because Mike was the winner of the Dremel Kitbashing Award, April 2020.
With this,
for this very structure.
Well, there you go.
Wow.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's great.
So don't bother entering again, Mike, because it's already been done.
Yeah, we don't allow double dipping.
Hey, I just had a great idea, Kelly, and I'm also interested in your input too, Otto. Kelly and Mailboy and Otto, what about this? Tell me now. Be honest with me. Tell me if I'm way off base with this. But the first person that wins the Dremel Kitbashing Award from the AML Nation, that in the article mentions the AML Nation or a modeler's life, the AML Nation gives them $100 gift certificate towards Midwest Model Railroad, and they become a super fan.
Ooh.
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 Those are some pretty high stakes there, Lionel.
Yeah.
They are.
Well,
They're like the top shelf stakes there.
well,
Yeah.
but you got to get in there. You got to do it. You got to build it. You got to get in there. You got to get it approved by the big guy over there at RMC. You got to write up a story. There's a fair amount of work involved in this.
Yeah. And you got to
So
win.
you heard it here first, AML Nation. Start
There you
sending
go.
in your ideas. We want to see them. And, first one from our group who gets in print, you never know. You might be achieving superfan status before you know it.
Yeah, but they have, the key is they got to mention a modeler's life in the article.
Yes.
And mention how handsome the host is.
No, they don't need to. Yeah,
Nah.
there's no need to stretch the truth or twist the truth. Just let's see if somebody can do it, because that would be pretty cool if somebody put
That
in
would
all
be.
that effort.
I was thinking more about the history of this whole contest, and it's really interesting because I also feel like the Dremel is one of those tools that we take for granted because it's been around for so long. I think it goes back to at least the 1940s. I mean, it's been around forever as a woodworking tool, and it made its way into the hobby industry. And I also think it's interesting. I think where Tony met up with the guy, it was Ed Erdman. He was the head sales manager for Dremel. And every year in Chicago, there used to be the big Hobby Industry Association.
Yes, that's right. You're right.
And it used to be like the Chicago Hobby Industry Show. That was where you made your big debuts and announcements. And it was literally an industry show, with trade show booths and everything. And Dremel was actually looking for a way to promote the Dremel tool, getting into more hands. And I think they both kind of reached across the aisle to each other. But it was Tony who came up with Tony Custer who came up with the idea of the RMC Dremel Kitbashing Award. And it's as simple as, you win the contest, Dremel sends you a free moto tool. And I can't think of a more delightful way to encourage model building, and also, reward people for a job well done.
Well, and there's a lot of pluses because they can also make contact with you, Otto, the editor of the magazine. They might come up with, like you say, that maybe the structure or whatever it is they built isn't ideal for that particular contest, but then you'll say, hey, how about writing an article about it? I mean, it's a real opportunity for people to get into the journalism side of the hobby.
Well, let's get into that. So we talked about what constitutes kitbashing, how to photograph it, how to get it to me. And we talked about the fear of cutting into models and cutting things apart and messing them up. You're not going to mess up. And if you do mess up, just do it over because they're models and you can just get another one. Writing. Every time I see a fantastic model and I reach out to someone, I'm like, hey, this would make a great story for the magazine. Would you like to write it up for us? Oh, I don't know how to write stories. Yes, you do. Everyone knows how to write a story. All you need to do, and especially for the Kitbashing Award, it's not a very long, you don't have to write a lot. 1,500 words sounds like a lot, but it's not once you get it on paper. To write an article about how you built a model, describe it to me as if you called me up on the telephone. I can't see what you're doing. And describe it to me like you're talking to your best friend about how you built this model. Hey, I was trackside one day and I saw this really cool caboose go by. And I'm like, that's cool. And I went on the internet and I found pictures of it. And I saw it similar to this other model being offered, but it's not exact. So I bought the model, bought the parts I needed. I made a cut here, made a cut there, glued this, cut that, sanded, painted, decaled, and I made a pretty cool model. The end. Your story has to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Describe to us how you built the model, and it'll start to flow. And grammar, spelling, those are things that the editors help you with. We won't make you look stupid, because if you look bad, we look bad.
No, absolutely.
So, just jump in, tell the story, get it to me, and if you're really stuck, I'll tell you where you need to go. We'll help you develop the story. But honestly, it's as simple as just imagine you're talking to a friend and telling them how you built the model and go from there.
What if imagined you were talking to Kelly?
I don't know. I don't know how that would go, actually. It kinda
Well,
seems
you
like
know how it would go because I've talked to you before
It goes.
at the convention in Portland.
Yes.
And
We'll always have Portland.
yeah.
Yes.
Oh, what happens in Portland stays in Portland?
Seriously, do you remember any of that, Otto?
Probably not.
If I had to be 300% honest, that was a very intense week of a lot of things happening, and I don't remember every detail. So I'm remiss. I do remember having a conversation with you. I don't remember that exact conversation, but that is conventions. It's a blur of activity, and it's seeing 3,000 of your best friends all in one place. It's that's the beauty of conventions, and I hope we can get back to one again someday.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, and that's like the podcast. It's like today is the day actually that Bernard Hellen's podcast came out, where he's the guy that owns and created Mini Prints, and he sent me a couple of messages, and he says, "Hey, I really like the Easter egg part at the end," and I'm like, okay. I don't remember anything that happens on a podcast. So when somebody claims that they've won the Dremel Kitbashing Award and they mention the AML and they were the first ones to do it, I'll be like, yeah, I don't remember that. But everybody will remind me. So we'll remember that. I think it's pretty cool. Let's get some people involved here, because it's a fun thing to do, and I mean, you can't go wrong.
Well, and Lionel, the biggest thing too is all these steps that we've talked about, building a model, photographing it, writing about it, sending it to me. Those are the same steps for writing a feature story.
Yeah.
Except a feature story might be longer and have more detail and have more photos, but it's the same concept. I've reached out to people. It always amazes me when I reach out to people who are doing fantastic modeling work. And I'm like, this is awesome. I want to get and I assume I'm like the 10th or 12th person in line to tell them that they're doing a great job. And they're like, who, me? Really? I'm like, yes, your Taj Mahal with the perfectly detailed interior and functioning fountains. Yes, that is amazing. It should be in the magazine. But I do enjoy the humble and the humility. But yes, we want your work in the magazine, and it doesn't always have to be the perfectly detailed Taj Mahal. There's so many concepts and techniques and things to talk about in this hobby. I just saw my friend Ray O'Neill. He just posted something on Facebook today that I want to get him to write up. He made a functioning derail for his switching layout. It's a modern style derail.
Cool.
Yeah, and he used a hinge from something, and I just glanced at it and I'm like, this is amazing. How do we get this in the magazine?
Yeah.
And it's a simple little thing. It's probably not a 12-page story, but it's still something worth sharing with the masses.
I have something I was going to say.
No. Here's a question: are you looking for more articles that are sort of a short, like 1 or 2 evening type project versus longer drawn out ones?
Back in the 70s, we had a section. We had a series of articles called the One Evening Project, which we would gladly welcome, because not everything is an involved 6-month process. Sometimes it's something as simple as going to the basement and you're going to paint and detail a bunch of telephone poles tonight, or it could be something as simple as that. Not everything has to be a 12-page 14-part feature. One evening projects are fine. Techniques are great to revisit. Honestly, we're interested in everything, and it's such a broad hobby with so many scales, so many niche interests, so many avenues to explore. Traction, narrow gauge, industrials, mainline, short lines. Did I mention traction? Because I really have a thing for traction. we want it all. And yes, our other sister publications do cover these things. We also publish O-scale trains, which is dedicated to two-rail O-scale modeling. We publish the Narrow Gauge and Short Line Gazette. We publish the ON30 and HON3 annuals, which are all dedicated to narrow gauge modeling. You know,
I'll just say there are a lot of great kitsch bashing articles in those two publications.
Absolutely, because I mean, especially in narrow gauge, and I think it's always been that way. People are drawn to narrow gauge because of the scratch building and kit bashing opportunities. Because so many of the real railroads, whether they were logging railroads or industrial railroads or some short line in the woods, or some narrow gauge line in the mountains, they were using non-standard equipment and non-standard construction, and it just begs to be modeled and scratch built and kit bashed. But just because we have other publications dedicated to those areas doesn't mean, like, I love narrow gauge. We do it in RMC all the time. Love traction, love O scale, S scale, N scale. Even got a couple of Z scale projects coming up. People think that you can't build models in Z scale. Yes, you can. If you're into it, we're into it, and we want to hear about it.
Oh, I love that. That should be your catchphrase. If you're into it, we're into it. You want to hear my catchphrase that I invented there a few months ago?
Yeah, no, lay it on me, yeah.
Model railroading. It's younger than you think.
You know, it's funny, and I just had this conversation down at the Railroad Museum yesterday. One of my older friends is like, man, how did the kids get into the trains today? Because we just saw some young rail fans were at the museum taking video, taking pictures, and they're like, how do these kids get into it? There's no steam era cars, and there's no steam engines, and all the fallen flags are gone. And I'm like, but the trains aren't gone, and you're talking about things that you miss or you enjoy. Even in my lifetime, I've seen things go away, like things we took for granted, like boxcars in general, or cheap 38s, or, you know, just even things like that are gone. Just because you view the hobby in one way and you have some interests, it doesn't mean that there's still people coming up and they're finding new ways to hook into the hobby. And again, as Lionel often points out, the internet is responsible for this huge explosion, because, again, remember, 10-year-old me, yes, he had the train magazines, but he didn't have the network of other people to reach out to. I think I was 12 years old before I met someone else, any person, no one even my age. I didn't meet anyone my age for years, but just to meet another person into trains, you know, I was 12 years old. Now, you can hook into the internet, you can network with people on social media, you can instantly find discussion groups for anything you're interested in, you can meet other modelers, you can even meet, you know, all those famous names that you see in the magazines. They're probably out there, and you can meet them and ask them questions and learn from them. And you can leapfrog. You know, it took me, I think I was in high school until I was finally networking with other people and really taking this hobby seriously. And that's how young people are getting into it. They're getting the built-in network almost from birth. It's available to them. The research tools, the information, the instant communication, it's all there. And I think what we're going to see in the coming years, now that it's been 25 years, you know, since the internet's really been robust enough for everyone to take advantage of it. Let's see now what this funnel of information is doing for model building and doing for the hobby. And like Lionel says, it is exploding and it's growing. And that's why we have dozens upon dozens of niche manufacturers and niche publications and niche conventions. And that's why it's all here. So maybe you model the steam era, but you're still getting your information from the internet.
That's right. That's what I keep saying. There's a tsunami. There is a wave of active model railroaders coming that, you know, like you say, under the age of 25, that have had all this information available to them. I kind of feel sorry now for 10-year-old Otto.
Oh man, he was lost. He was lost.
So let me ask you this question though. This is we're deviating a little bit, but we're still talking about it's still all model railroading, and it's still all going to encourage people to man, imagine winning the Dremel Kitbashing Award, and on top of that, you get to become a super. Oh my God!
Yeah, definitely.
It would make your head swim. It'd be like winning the Stanley Cup.
It'd be like winning 2 Stanley Cups.
It'd be like winning 2 Stanley Cups. Exactly. Okay, so You said, you were, before you met somebody, it was a long time, blah, blah, blah. And the hobby is, well, for years it was kind of like, it was a secret handshake. You didn't tell anybody. But I mean, I meet more and more full-time railroaders that are happily embracing the hobby. Like, what is your sense of, I mean, this is a long-winded question. Not like any of them aren't long-winded. Maybe I'll just keep talking I'll filibuster and see if I can take this an hour and 30 minutes. But what is your sense? Like when you were just saying there about how it was, it took you so long to hook up with people and meet people and blah, blah, blah. Like, what is the sense you get now of people coming together? Like the sense, like when I talk about it, I just can't get over how amazing it is. Like, do you get a sense from being the editor of a magazine, like a sense of how much of a wave of people is coming? Does that make any sense at all?
No, I know what you mean. And I feel that my biggest challenge as editor is reaching out to those people, because there is so much information on the internet. You can get it for free. You have to know how to do research. Simply putting caboose into Google is going to get you so many broad returns. You really need to know how to do your research and use search terms and use different sources. And I think that just comes from learning how to be a good researcher, which helps you build better models. And you could argue, well, why do you need magazines? Why do you need Model Railroader? Why do you need Railroad Model Craftsman? Why do you need any of them? All the information is out there for free. I can join Facebook groups for free and meet other modelers and learn from them. I can go on YouTube and watch a Luke Towan video and learn how to make scenery. What do I need printed magazines for? So, okay, here's my theory, is that you can absolutely get all the information you want on the internet. The internet is not curated. The internet is not guarded. The internet is not, there's no standards for publishing on the internet. Anyone can do it. You can publish a web page, a blog, you can publish on Facebook. There's no stopping you. And maybe that information is good and maybe it's bad. Maybe it's mediocre. Maybe it's just flat out incorrect. Magazines, I hate to say the word gatekeeper, because like we're not gatekeepers, but we are curators. When you subscribe to the magazine, you're trusting me and my staff to bring you the best material each month. We are scouring the earth for the best material. We only have 12 times a year to get it right. I only have 100 pages to fit in. I can only fit in the best material. I don't have time for mediocre. So, and I think that's any magazine. I could buy a magazine, for any number of reasons. Primarily, I hope that you trust me and my staff to bring you the best. You trust us as curators. And we are not the sole source. Again, great research and great model building comes from a variety of sources. I want you to use our magazine as one of the primaries anytime you can. And I hope that we're publishing things that are useful to people, because all of our content comes from the readers. Very rarely do Justin or myself or Harry write the articles, because we want our readers to speak. Our readers are telling us what's important to them. Our readers are submitting. Anytime someone says, I don't like your magazine because you don't publish X, and I'm like, are you interested in X? Can you write a story? Oh no, I just want to tell you that I don't like your magazine. That's the answer I get every time. Oh no, I'm not writing it. Do you know somebody who can write it? No, I just want to complain to you and let you know that you're terrible and you're doing a terrible job. Well, I appreciate that.
You didn't have to hang up on me.
Well, it's only because you called 3 times in one day, Lionel. It was a little annoying. But no, so that's where magazines or anything that you pay me to subscribe to, you could subscribe to a streaming service, and you're paying for that streaming service because you're trusting them to deliver you the best content. You could be paying for, I know there's certain digital magazines and online publications you could pay for. You're trusting them to deliver the best material. So that my thing is, how do I get more people into the fold? And where we suffer, and it's no secret, is the number of hobby shops are dwindling. The number of stores you can buy magazines are smaller. It's it's not automatic that you walk into a venue and our publications are going to be there. And by the way, if you know of a hobby shop or a magazine store or a bookstore that you think should be carrying our publications, just get in touch with me. We have really, really good rates for hobby shops. You don't have to order a ton of material. We have very good minimums, very good rates. And I'm saying this because we want more dealers. We are excited when someone subscribes. That's great. But we're even more excited when you support our network of dealers and hobby shops. So, tell your hobby shop manager, tell your bookstore manager, or if you are a manager, please get in touch with me and I will show you how easy it is to carry our products.
However, on that note, though, I would say that Kevin U. Daly, who's the proprietor, the president, the guy in charge, the big kahuna, where the buck stops, Kevin U. Daly's and his wife own White River Productions, which owns all those magazines you spoke of.
Yes.
The quality of the magazine they produce, the thing about that's a good point you say about getting it out and so people can purchase it. But the thing I like about RMC, it's a fun magazine to buy. Same as Model Railroad News. All of the publications that White River makes, they're such quality products as far as the paper and the presentation. You're going to say something, Kelly?
Oh, I was just going to say, I remember as a kid, the old RMC it was almost like tissue paper. And when White River took it over, it was just like amazing. It was like a Cadillac of magazines.
It is. It's like a Cadillac of magazines. It's like the Lexus of magazines.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. We appreciate that. But also, we work really hard to keep the quality up too. I mean, nice paper is half of the equation, but good content is what I hope keeps you coming back.
Absolutely. The content is good, and the content is more fun when the actual presentation of the magazine is such a high quality. And I mean, if people don't know, White River Productions does a ton of historical magazines. I mean, Kevin understands that if you're going to do this, if you're going to survive, you got to produce a quality product. And I mean, that's what you guys are doing for sure. However, I have 2 questions and then we can stop. But if anybody else has questions, feel free. Kelly, you're awful quiet tonight, Kelly. I'm concerned.
Yeah, I'm quiet. I was up at 4 a.m. again.
Doing your hair?
No, actually getting ready to go to work. Get it 6 o'clock.
What time did you get to work?
6 o'clock.
Okay.
Actually, I got to work at 5:30. The gate wasn't even open
So
yet.
you don't do your hair?
No, I wash my hair. That's
you got up at 4 o'clock to do your hair.
Yeah.
But more importantly, who does your nails? And who picked out those shoes?
Stop getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning. You're too old.
No,
for
it's
that
the new
nonsense.
time. It's the new time. I'm putting more hours on at Microtrains.
What do you mean it's the new time?
It's the new time. I'm be working from 6 to 11, starting in August.
Why 6 to 11?
Because then at 11 o'clock I go to Campbell's.
So this is all brought upon on yourself. You have volunteered.
Well, I have some bills to pay. So.
What did you do with your fireman money?
Oh, that's paying for the house and everything else.
Oh, okay. What kind of bills do you have to pay?
I have to pay some of the bills that my wife incurred.
What, is she into the hobby too? She into
No. She went to Mexico and did some other stuff that some dental work, and she's got to pay for all that. So
okay.
I'm being a good husband. I'm going to work a little extra to pay it off.
What a guy!
What a guy!
I know.
Plus, I like working at Microtrains. It's changed a little bit.
Okay, but you still got to look after your health. It's not going to be much good if you only can do it for 6 months and then you fall over from exhaustion.
Yeah, I'll know when I can't do it.
You don't know. You won't know.
Oh, I'll know.
No, you won't. You don't know now. You're getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning. The last 2 times I've had you on a podcast, you're getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning and you're not saying anything. And then I say you're quiet and you go, "Oh, I'm tired. I got up at 4."
Yeah.
So you don't know that you're overworking yourself now. I'm sorry you had to be part of this, Otto. I'm sorry.
Should I take Otto out of the room for a minute?
Yeah, take Otto out of the room.
Do you stop those peppermint green shrimp in the?
Yeah.
Well, we got new stuff. We got the proper
new
stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so now you were talking about there's articles. A lot of Bruce mentioned that there's a lot of good articles like in Narrow Gauge and Shortline Gazette and a couple of the other publications about scratch building. So if somebody is concerned about trying their first kit bashing, I said scratch building, I should have said kit bashing. If somebody's concerned about trying their first kit bashing model, but they find something they like in one of these magazines, the plans and everything, can they kit bash that model in their own, using the inspiration from another article? Can they kit bash that model and send it in how they did it?
Absolutely, yes.
Ooh, I've got something I can send. Oh, I just realized that. Ooh.
Okay, what do you got?
The wheels are turning. I can hear them over here.
What do you got that you can send?
I've got a Coke oven quencher that somebody had built as a kit bash,
right,
in O scale,
right,
and I did my version in HO.
Oh, so it's already done?
It's done. It's sitting behind me.
And did you take any how-to photos?
No how-to photos. I just got pictures. I'll have to get some pictures, take it outside and take pictures of it.
What if there are no how-to photos at all, Otto?
If there's no how-to photos at all, it might be a good candidate for Boomer Trail, but also, I think it's really on a case-by-case basis,
How have you ever thought of, I got a couple of suggestions for the men. How about this? Kelly's Corner. And corner would be and corner would be spelled with a K.
A K.
You get it? Kelly's Corner.
That's clever.
Yeah.
It'll be the type will be in crown.
If you really want to confuse people, it could be Kelly's Corner, and we can spell corner with QU.
There you go.
Yeah, see now that's you see now.
But don't accidentally make it Kelly's Corner, because that's just weird.
So that's acceptable then. If somebody wants to build an HO model and they see plans in O scale or vice versa, or they just see a really cool article that they like and they'd like to try building the model, and even if it's like the identical thing, but it's a kit bash and they were managed to do it, that's worth submitting to RMC.
Absolutely.
Otto, I will send you a photo and you give me your opinion.
Looking forward to it.
I'm not putting you on the spot.
No, and I think we raise a good point here. It's like, let's not overthink. Don't sit in your workshop and be like, is it good enough? Is it not good enough? Is it the right category? Is it Boomer Trail? Is it this? Is it that? Just reach out to me. Send me a couple of sample photos. Hey, I've got this idea. What do you think? Here's how it's going. And I can tell right away from a couple in progress photos how something's going, and I can guide you in the right direction. And if you have a finished model that's already built and you don't have any in progress photos, well, we'll figure out a way to work with that too.
I feel fairly confident that what I'm about to say is going to come out wrong, but I'm going to give it a shot anyways. Bruce, get ready to roll your eyes.
Well, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I jumped the gun.
Over the past decades, 80s, 90s, even somebody like our buddy Uncle Dave Abelies, who's in his mid 40s. So I mean, in the 90s, the magazine editors seemed like they were not distant, but they seemed like they were kind of on a pedestal because they were like, the Holy Grail was either RMC or other magazines, and so magazine editors, these model railroad magazine editors, seemed not necessarily rude but not necessarily approachable. Whereas I think it's important that people understand that my personal experience with Otto and my personal experience even with Tony and with you guys, you're very much wanting to work with your, what do you call the people that stuff in, your writers, your submissions. You are very approachable from a standpoint of,
I hope we are, yeah.
Well,
yeah.
That's one of the things I got to give. I've told this story many times. Andy Sprandio, first picture I ever sent into MR for trackside photos. He sent it back with a very nice, 1 or 2 paragraph letter saying that, thanks for the submission, but there's no action. And I'm looking at a static photo and I'm thinking, action? What do you mean action? They don't move. It's
right.
a static photo. And so I mean, he was. So I mean, it's important that people understand. I think that's a key, is that people can send in their stuff, not feel like they're going to be made fun of if it's not quality, if it's not up to standard. More than likely, you are going to try to help the person improve. If the photo or the structure or whatever they build isn't necessarily up to magazine quality, you want the people to get involved and reach out and try to do it so that you can help them move forward.
Absolutely. And it's funny what you mentioned, because, Dave Abelies and I are pretty much the same age and grew up in the same time. And when I was younger reading these magazines, right now, anyone can drop an email to me, get in touch with me instantly, and I'll probably get back to you almost as quickly. We didn't have that instant communication like 25 years ago. So like, if you were going to submit an article to a magazine, you had to write a letter and you had to put that letter into the mailbox. And then, weeks later, you would get a response because it goes to the office, it gets put in the mail pile, it gets answered, sometime in the production cycle. And then there's probably a back and forth, or maybe you're on the telephone with the editor at some point. But, it was a very mechanical process back then. I remember even my first article that I got published in RMC in 2000, just 21 years ago. It's kind of frightening. I'm trying to remember. I think I had email, obviously, and I think I did email the editor, who was Bill Schomburg at the time, and he was very excited about my idea, which is about an article about the history of the Rochester subway and how to model it. And so my initial contact was email and then telephone, but I typed up the whole article, into Word, but I still had to pack it up, pack up all the slides. It was still a very physical process. And then it was like months later, and then one day there's a magazine on my doorstep with the article in it. So it's like, it was a very different process then than it is now. Everything's digital, everything's instant, everything is pretty rapid turnaround. And I feel like that only helps us, because instead of being bogged down in the back and forth of correspondence, I can start a Facebook conversation with someone almost instantly, get his details, and get him in the magazine that week. And I think that's the difference. And, you mentioned something about being approachable too. And I think that's always why conventions were so important, because the magazine editors would be there. And it wasn't so much that you went there to kiss the ring and ask a favor and kneel before them. It was the editors and staff were there literally to meet their readers, to get article ideas. Like, going to conventions and meeting 3,000 of your closest friends, you're bound to come back with 10 or 20 different leads on story ideas, So, and I do miss that interaction of going to events, going to shows, chatting with customers, meeting readers. That's another way that we interact. And I'm hoping that comes around soon, because I do miss that interaction and reaching out to people directly.
Crazy story. I think it was 2018. Otto and I met at Springfield, and we stood beside one of the steel posts that holds the building up, and we had a conversation. And I said to Otto, I said, "You would be ideal to be the editor of Railroad Model Craftsman. The opening is there. You are the perfect candidate for this job." And then over the next few months, he got the job. He became the editor. And the next time I saw him at the next Springfield show, I walked up to him, and he stuck out his hand, and there was like some sort of a ring on it. And I had to kneel in front of him and kiss the ring.
I didn't stick out my hand. I merely gestured towards the ring, indicated how you're supposed to prostrate yourself. We did provide a kneeling pillow.
That's true.
And, Lionel, I did let you cut the line. So
that's true. That's true.
You're welcome. Yeah.
What is Green Squadron putty? Somebody explain that to me.
Oh, it's magical stuff that all the modelers use for. It's a very fine putty. Up there, a lot of guys use auto body putty, the real fine stuff. But Green Squadron putty. They also make a white one as well.
Or Squadron Green.
Or Squadron Green. That too. Yes. Yeah. True enough. That's what it's Squadron Green and Squadron White. But it's a putty that plastic modelers use a lot for filling in seams and areas that need to be sanded and things like that. So it's available in fine hobby shops and online everywhere. If you take your model railroad glasses off and look around, you'll find an amazing world of stuff out there that can be used also for model railroading.
And different putties are meant for different materials. Some are wood filler, some are plastic filler. So you want to make sure you're using the right material for the right project.
There it is, right
so,
here.
So I have a question for Mr. Vondrak.
Yes, sir.
Somebody who's contemplating the RMC Dremel Kitbashing Award, but is afraid they might not have the skills. Would the White River publication, the Structure Handbook for Model Railroaders, be of assistance to them?
Why, yes, Bruce. I'm glad you mentioned it. In fact, White River has a delightful line of model railroading books for every aspect of the hobby. You can find them today if you visit shop.whiteriverproductions.com. Tell them Lionel sent you.
Yeah, tell them Lionel sent you.
And you get charged 10%.
All right, let's do this. Let's do this. Nice. Let's do this. So what do I'm going to go to railroad. I'm going to type in RMC. I'm going to type
rrmodelcraftsman.com.
Okay, I'm going to type in rrmodelcraftsman. And then we're going to walk people through. This has become a thing of mine. We're going to walk people. If I can't find it, then it can't be found because Lionel struggles with the internet. Lionel struggles with a lot of things. Okay, so now I found Railroad Model Craftsman. It is at rrmodelcraftsman.com. And there's digital editions now, I see too.
Yes, there is.
Since 2011.
Yeah, that's cool. And where would somebody go to find the books if they stumble onto that? Would they click on White River Productions?
The books, you can click on subscribe, which will actually take you into our bookstore, and you'll find all of our books and magazines there.
All right, I'm going to click on subscribe. I'm clicking on subscribe. Railroad Model Craftsman, only $44 a year. Orders placed for the wrong location will not be processed. Well, that makes sense.
And then if you're in the bookstore, you'll see it says home, books, and back issues. If you click on books, there's different categories, and you can click on the modeling books.
Oh, there's books, modeling. Oh, okay. So I just clicked books. White River has some spectacular books. That's really how Kevin U. Daly started out, wasn't it? Was really producing books. Wasn't that his first love kind of thing?
He started by publishing a book about the Missouri Pacific and about a line that he was studying called the White River Subdivision. And that was his first project, and it kind of blossomed into other projects, and then it turned into taking on Historical Society magazines, and then from the Historical Societies, it blossomed into taking on other publications, and so on, and here we are today.
Here's a really cool book about the Shea locomotive, an illustrated history. Tony wants us to interview him. Tony's always finding people for me to interview, and it's kind of like, slow down, buddy. Slow down. We only got a limited amount of space. We only got so many. What are the things that go across the internet, Bruce?
Bits and bytes.
Bits and bytes. Yeah, yes. Okay. So anyways, I went to modeling. 150 years modeling projects, freight car handbook, building scenery, HO3N annual. Where would I get to books about modeling?
If you go up to the top where it says in the menu where it says books,
yeah,
and then you a little menu pops up, and then you just click on modeling. So in our bookstore, all the HON3 and ON30 annuals are also in the modeling books. So you have to scroll.
Oh yeah, okay, I'm fine.
Scroll through those.
Yeah, just go to the second page.
Second page.
Here's practical scratch building for model railroaders. Boom, 1995. Structure.
That's a good book.
Yeah.
The Structure Handbook for Model Railroaders.
There we go.
There it is, $24.95. Oh, look at this. Paint and detail railroad models with Scott Lupia. You know, Otto, you and I ought to do a show with Scott.
We should get Scott on the podcast. I think he'd be great.
I think it would be good. Yeah, see if we can sell some more of those books.
And actually, the paint and detail book is an excellent kit bashing book as well, because many of the models in there, Scott is modeling specific prototypes of certain locomotives, and he's heavily modifying them to represent those prototypes. And that even if you're not modeling those engines, it's still great for techniques and how it's done.
This was a lot of fun. I was thinking it was going to take 30 minutes, but there's always lots of questions to ask. And here we are. We're well past an hour, and we've had a lot of fun. So let's recap. What we're looking for is entrance into the Railroad Model Craftsman, the RMC Kitbashing Award of the, what's it called?
It's the RMC Dremel Kitbashing Award,
Right.
and it's presented every month. And the winner gets a free Dremel Moto tool. And your project has to be at least 50% commercial parts. You have to write between 1,500 and 2,000 words about your project. You need to, at the minimum, include a few beauty photos of the finished model. And we really prefer, if you do have them, to include a couple of in-progress photos, just so people can see the highlights of how you got to where you have your finished model. And you can email me directly, Otto, O-T-T-O, at rrmodelcraftsman.com, or contact me through the website, rrmodelcraftsman.com, click on Contact Us, or through our Facebook page, searching Railroad Model Craftsman Magazine.
And if you want to get right through to him, you want to get probably don't mention my name.
Now, Otto, to send the photos to you, is there a certain way that they have to come to you?
Just, a couple of JPEGs so I can see what we're looking at. And
okay,
then,
so you're looking for the preliminary, right?
Yeah, just for samples, just send me a couple of JPEGs. Otherwise, my email is going to crash, and that makes me cranky. Don't send me like 35 photos in my email. I'll definitely be very cranky about that. When we're ready to move to the publication phase, I'll give you instructions on how to upload and what to do, and we'll go from there.
So you're uploading them now instead of, I noticed back in 2000, let's see what is up. Just dropped my books. 2018, they said send a CD or a DVD. So in the instructions. So I was just wanting to see if that was updated.
Yeah. So what you do now is you just send a couple of simple JPEGs, not the full photo with 5.5 megs or something like that. You just send a couple of real simple JPEGs, and if you don't know that, Otto will tell you how to do that, and Bruce can tell you how to do that. How would you do that, Bruce?
Well, you could take if you're using your cell phone. A lot of times, if you're sending an email with your cell phone, there's an option to send a reduced file size. Yeah. Or you can take your photo into a program like Arfin View or any other of the photo programs out there, and also reduce the file size to a reasonable size of, say, 400 or 500 rather than 5.6 or 7 or whatever.
Right.
Something else I should mention, and I don't want this to come off the wrong way, but in this age of internet and email and Facebook and social media and instant communication, we may start a conversation on Facebook, but I'm going to ask you right away to go to my my work email so that I can keep my personal life and my work life separate. And it's not because I don't like you; it's just because if I have all these messages in my personal box, I'm gonna lose track of them. So I just need to keep my work in my work file. So again, if you reach out to me or I reach out to you, at some point I'm gonna be like, hey, we need to. I just need you to email me here at Otto at RR Model Craftsman. So don't be offended. Nothing personal.
So Otto, if you hear Otto, I got a model to show you.
I'll be like, go away, Lionel. How'd you get through the border?
And,
who stamped your visa?
and also anybody that lives in upstate New York around the Rochester area, Otto just bought a new home at 2243 Oak Tree Lane.
Funny book name.
Actually, Lionel, didn't I give you my new address? It's 1600 West Addison.
Yeah, exactly. And his number, the operators are waiting.
555-1212. That's 555-1212.
Okay. I think we've covered it all now.
I think we're good.
I think we are.
Excellent.
And if you're the first person from the AML Nation to win the award and mention a modeler's life in the article, you're going to get a $100 gift certificate from Midwest Model Railroad, and you'll become a super fan if you mention a modeler's life in the article.
No, they can mention it, but would the editor let that go through?
Well, that's the problem. There's the rub, right? See, if he doesn't, then all bets are off.
The fate of your super fandom shit relies on my delete key.
So they should be sending you an e-transfer of say X amount of dollars.
Well, you know, we don't get into Bruce. We don't get into
okay. I say we don't get into business details here.
Yeah, we don't.
Well, I know. It'll be shame if something happened to that. Yeah.
I want to thank you guys for the opportunity to come on. It's always fun to be here. Thanks for letting me talk about the magazine and let me talk about myself a little bit. Oh, I always enjoy that. I hope you do.
Yeah.
It's a great magazine. It really is.
Yeah. And that address again is 199 Pond View.
Stop. No. Jeez, Lionel.
Okay. Kelly, can you give out our email address?
Yes, if you want to reach us through the wonders of email, you can reach us at modeler'slife@gmail.com.
Wait a minute. Otto, if you want to have a real laugh, wait till you listen to this.
Okay.
All right.
So I'll start over.
Go ahead, Kelly.
So if you want to reach us by email, you can reach us at modelerslife@gmail.com. That's modelers with one L like Dremel, not two L's like Kelly.
Wow.
I'm learning. But unfortunately, you're not getting the fun anymore.
Oh, yeah, that was good. Oh, it's just as much fun when you hit that one. You hit a dinger.
That was deep to center field. It's another Lincoln homer.
Yeah. Exactly. Man, you hit that one deep. That's gone. That was right off the bat. That was gone. Nice one.
Lionel, we haven't mentioned City Classics in 35 minutes.
Oh, yeah, right. And don't forget, man, if you're looking for kits to structure, kits you can scratch build with or kit bash with, boom, go to City Classics and buy some of their stuff. They got great
stuff.
They got tons of stuff.
And
direct
Jim
to you from Pittsburgh, USA.
Yeah, and Jim did a video on how to modify the front of buildings to look like they're old buildings that are modified. So you could take some of his buildings and do the modifications to put modern fascias on them and stuff. So it's pretty cool.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. And if Jim actually lives in Carnegie, Pennsylvania, which is a suburb of Pittsburgh, and he's at 2233 Maple View Lane.
And if he doesn't answer the phone,
phone number.
if he doesn't answer the phone, he's in the bat cave.
That's right.
He actually is. I'm telling you, Otto, walking away. There's no kidding. I'm not kidding. I know sometimes people can't tell the difference, but I'm deadly serious. He is Batman. I'm convinced of that beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Never seen him and Batman in the same room together. Yeah.
And I've been in the Batcave. He has the coolest basement of anybody I've ever met. He bought this house, and it's built on the side of a hill. And the guy that built the house then made an addition, and there's a basement underneath the patio.
Wow.
And it's huge. There's like the world headquarters of City Classics is actually in the Batcave. It's a fact. I can't tell you where it is, but I can tell you I've been there.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what I said? Yeah, you know what I said? You know what I said when I first went in there, Otto? You know what I said?
What did you say, Lionel?
Holy kit bash, Batman. I can't. And we have, Otto, if you ever want an AML t-shirt, a hat, a hoodie, a mug, I should send you a mug. You just go to Midwest Model Railroad, and their URL is midwestmodelrr.com. And you just go scroll across the navigation bar across the top and click on AML, and boom, you're into a wonderland of merchandise that you can have for, and then you can, like Jeremy Reese, he bought his shirt there, and lots of people buy their shirts there. I think my buddy, Don and Mark, they bought their shirts there. Lots of people do. Serge LaBelle, he made a YouTube video on, man, there's a guy you should get. There's a guy, Serge LaBelle. You are a master modeler. You are a modeler. What's the word? Modeler
extraordinaire.
Extraordinaire. Yeah, and he has this O scale. There's a layout you should have in the magazine. It's called the CN Sandmore Subdivision. Let me just double check this, Otto, because I don't think I've ever sent you there before. You have got to check this guy's layout out. This is absolutely beyond spectacular. He lives in a little place called Septiel, Quebec. He's a locomotive engineer for the Quebec North Shore and Labrador Railroad, and he is building this massive O-scale layout to just a spectacular CN Sandmore subdivision. I'm typing and talking at the same. That's not a good thing. Yes,
Always a bad combination.
It's always a bad combo. It is the O-scale CN Sandmore subdivision. And I'm telling you, man, you got to check this guy out. And Serge, you should enter the kit bashing contest, which will help you make a connection with. It's in a 32 by 58 foot basement. It'll help you, Serge, make a contact with what's the editor's name of RMC? Otto. It will help you make and it's not.
Jeez, maybe you should have the editor on and talk to me.
And do you know that Otto's dad is Ed Vondrak?
Yes, but not that Ed Vondrak.
Yeah, not the Ed Vondrak of fame of what did Ed Vondrak do? He drew
track plans, lots of track plans.
Lots of track plans. That is crazy. Crazy that your dad's name is Ed. Ed Vondrak was famous for drawing track plans, and yet there's no connection. That's crazy. But I bet you if the fellow that drew the track plans was had lots of money, there'd be a connection all of a sudden. Have you ever been to Strang, Nebraska? Otto?
Me? I'm not sure I have.
No. There's not much there. Dirt road. But
it's home of the Strangburger.
It's home of the Strangburger and Bubba's Anytime Cafe. I think some of this will be out. All right. So go. All right,
kid. About that time.
We didn't mention the website.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And the website, amodeler'slife.com. This is on the free channel. I'm sure this will be on a Monday now because it's a whole full show by itself. So we're on a Monday. If you check out amodeler'slife.com, you can, if you want to send an email, you can just click on a picture of the moderately agitated mailboy in a particularly agitated state. But if you're enjoying this podcast and you'd like more, if you click on the little panel that says Patreon, it'll take you and explain to you what Patreon is. And for merely 365 payments of 16 cents a day, you too can get like another podcast every week. 4 extra podcasts a month. Now I think we've covered everything. Are you ready, Otto, to take us out of here?
I think so.
So remember, a Modeler's Life podcast. Kelly, are you okay? You're not.
I'm here. I'm listening.
You're not going to wear yourself out, are you?
No, I'm not. I will never do that.
You got to
He's pacing himself. He's pacing himself.
I'm pacing.
You got to look at how many mornings a week are you getting up at 4:00?
Right now, just 2.
But in the future?
The future, it'll be 5 days a week.
You can't do that. That'll kill you.
Well,
come on, man.
I'm young for my age. My wife keeps telling me I'm 68 years old, but I'm 11-year-old inside.
Well, yeah, inside. And how many 11-year-olds do you know that make good decisions? Otto, this is a guy that when they first moved out to Oregon, they bought a house on a hill on the side of a mountain. And he couldn't even drive out of his driveway. One day he literally, this is not a Lionel-esque, this is not writer's embellishment. This is true fact. Bruce
drove off
Kelly literally wrote his car off in his own driveway.
Yeah. The driveway's a mile, half a mile.
It doesn't matter. You were in your driveway and you wrote your car off.
And it's on a mountain.
And you were driving it. You were driving your car and you wrote your car off. The insurance company said that's a write-off. Yep. Because he rolled it down the side of a hill.
Oh, is that all?
Yeah.
Not rolled it like over, but rolled down the hill.
Through some trees. And
it actually hit a tree.
It rolled over 10 times.
No, it didn't.
It ended over. He was doing 72 miles an hour, missed a curve every night.
Actually, Lionel, like in the movies where you see somebody, their car either it rolls over or it goes over a jump and all the things go up in the air and they go up in the air. When I came off the road towards the tree, there was a bucket full of tools, and literally tools were flying through the air in different directions.
How fast were you going?
I don't know. All I know is when I it was ice and I was in the rut, the drainage there where And when the tires, I floored it to try to get out of the rut.
Floored it.
And when the tires hit the traction wherever it was, it just flew out of the ditch and over the driveway and down the hill.
He literally rode off his car.
That's right.
Own driveway.
That's why I have a short driveway now.
He was doing at least 50. That's what I figure. He was doing a rally jump. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Otto.
It probably felt like that.
I'm sorry, Otto.
There was at least 2,500 or what's it? 2,500 RPM.
Yeah. Well, then you were doing like 70.
Well, that's the wheels were spinning.
Yeah, the wheels are spinning.
Oh boy.
I'm sorry, Otto. You had to be part of this.
No, it's all good.
Oh, when are you going to do more commuter articles? The commuter articles.
Consider the commuter.
Yeah, consider the commuter.
I'm hoping we can collect that up into a book and release that next year or so.
Good.
That was a great series of articles.
Yes, it is.
We really enjoyed it.
Now it's a book. Now we'll have to flog that book.
Oh yeah. You know what? Yeah, you know what he should do? He should contact Uncle Dave because he works for a commuter railroad.
That's a good point. I think Uncle Dave's got a couple articles in there, RMC in the bucket, ready to go.
Yeah.
Yes, we should be seeing some from him any day now.
I'm desperate to get him on get his Conrail on the cover of RMC. Desperate.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah. So remember, a Modeler's Life podcast is considered marginally adequate by 6 out of 10
home kit bashers.
Now it's time for the New Jersey Transit Elevator Escalator Report. Take it away, Dave. Dave?
Good morning, everybody. Westfield westbound, just out of service in the last hour or so. The vendor's en route. Take a look at that one. Absecon's back in service this morning. Trenton Transit Center number 4 escalator. This one, we're not really sure exactly what happened. Nice Vision shows a bunch of people on it. It just sort of stops. The brake engaged. So I think we'll just be a quick reset, but we'll check it this morning. Union Center Island is still out for its midlife overhaul. Montclair State University number 2 is out. That one's the parking deck responsibility, so they'll put it back in service this afternoon, hopefully. And Newark Penn Station elevator number 37 is still out for its door replacement. We're not real thrilled with the vendor performance on that guy, but it'll come around here like everything else. So I'll keep you posted.
It's another Lincoln Homer.
I like that. Home kit bashers.
Very good.
Which sounds better than home wrecker.
True enough.
That was a lot of fun.